Today I'm going to debunk a conspiracy theorist, specifically one who teaches that Jesus Christ never existed and he was created by the Catholic Church in the year 325 AD. So I'm going to use his own presentation, his own sources, to show you how he contradicts himself, how he contradicts history, and how his own sources contradict him. If you are a follower of Dr. Ray Hagins, well, let me apologize in advance for what's going to happen in this video. Fasten your seatbelt, take a Dramamine, this is going to be brutal. Hi guys, welcome to the channel that gives you biblical answers to difficult questions. Today I'm going to address the claims made by a conspiracy theorist who believes that Jesus Christ was never real, but he was created or invented by the Catholic Church in the year 325 AD.
The Gregorian calendar has been completely adjusted around the existence of someone that the Roman Catholic Church made up.
Okay, so I'll play a few more clips from him later on as we go along. But before I do that, let me first of all give you a broad overview as to what Dr. Hagins believes. He claims that Jesus Christ never existed. Instead, what existed was an Egyptian god called Serapis, and his full name is Serapis Christus. So he's going to claim that what people call Jesus Christ was really that ancient Egyptian god called Serapis. And then in the 300s AD, somebody called Arius arose and he started telling people Serapis is not real. And Constantine the emperor found that this guy was causing trouble in his empire. So he convened a council called the Council of Nicea to shut down Arius. And in that council, they excommunicated Arius, they banished him, and they established that Jesus Christ is now God. Immediately, anybody who has a little bit of sense should be able to figure out the logical absurdity of that position. If I am the emperor of Rome and somebody is making trouble in my empire by saying Serapis is not really God and I want to shut this person down, what will I do? I'm going to excommunicate that person, and two, I'm going to get all the teachers in my kingdom to start teaching people that Serapis really is God. I'm not going to invent a new deity, because if I invent a new god, that's just going to lend credence to the idea that Arius was right all along. How foolish would that be? So already we see the logical absurdity of that position. And before I get into the details, let me point out one more thing. The implausibility of that conspiracy theory. The strength of a conspiracy theory is how many people must be in on it and for how long in order to sustain the conspiracy. Here's what needs to happen. If Jesus Christ never existed as Dr. Ray Hagins believes, then that means the New Testament scriptures never existed. That means the emperor would have to now get people to write all of those scriptures in the year 325 AD and bury them in caves all over the place so that 1600 years later people will find them and read about Jesus. And not only that, he has to alter the chemistry of the documents, because when archaeologists discovered those manuscripts in the year 1900 and something AD, they backdated it using carbon dating to the year 125 AD, not 325 AD. You have to believe that Constantine had the ability to alter the chemistry of those documents. Carbon-14 was only discovered in the year 1946 AD. So we see already the logical absurdity of that position, and two, the implausibility of that conspiracy being sustainable for so long. All right, so let's get into some details now about what Dr. Hagins actually believes.
To understand that, we have to go back to the first European pharaoh in history, Ptolemy the First Soter. They made an image in honor of him, and this image is called Serapis.
So that's a brief history of Serapis. But now what he's going to try to do is say that Serapis really is Jesus. The Jesus who was invented by the Catholic Church is really Serapis. And he's going to draw on two things. One is the similarity or the resemblance between Serapis and Jesus Christ.
So the outcome of the Council of Nicea was the transformation of Serapis Christus became Jesus Christ.
Now, there's no doubt that those two images have some kind of similarity, absolutely. But even to the untrained eye, you could point out quite a few differences already. One, the nose is different. The lips are different. In fact, the only thing that's similar between those two images is the fact that they're both images of men with facial hair. Then he puts up a quote by somebody called Hadrian, writing to his brother-in-law, Servianus.
The worshippers of Serapis here are called what? And those who are devoted to the god Serapis, I find, call themselves the bishops of Christ.
So in that quote, Hadrian is saying that the people who follow Serapis are called bishops of Christ, and the worshippers of Serapis are called Christians. So that's his argument, and he puts forward that to his congregation. And of course, anyone who doesn't have the ability to fact check what he tells them, they're going to look at that and say, wow, they really made up Christianity. It wasn't Jesus, it was really Serapis. All right, so let me point out that code that he has on his screen, and this is his own presentation, by the way, is a complete hoax. It is from a document called Historia Augusta, which has been debunked by historians as being a work of pure fiction. Here's what Encyclopedia Britannica says about Historia Augusta. Most scholars regard these as spurious and believe that the history was written in the late 4th century by a single person. The first part, from Hadrian, is thought to be based on reliable sources and may be of some historical value, but the remaining parts are considered to be generally less reliable since they contain invented official documents and letters that are marred by anachronisms. An anachronism is essentially a timepiece that does not fit. In other words, Hadrian might as well have been wearing a Rolex when he wrote that letter because it never existed. He might as well have DM'd that letter to his brother-in-law on Instagram because it never happened. It's a complete fake. It's a work of fiction. And that's the document that he is quoting from. Now, I find it very difficult to believe that someone with a PhD, someone as intelligent as Dr. Ray Hagins, would make such an amateur mistake. I believe it's deliberate deception. He knows the document is spurious, but yet it's the only source of information he could use to propagate his lie. He is deliberately misleading his congregation. Furthermore, Hadrian and his brother-in-law Servianus were not friends. They were not close. They were more like outlaws, right? Servianus attempted a failed insurrection against Hadrian, for which Hadrian had him executed in the year 136 AD. Note the date of that letter, 134 AD. It is hardly likely that Hadrian would have been speaking to Servianus in such endearing terms. That's what you call an anachronism. It doesn't fit. The timepiece doesn't fit. And now, even if by some stretch of the imagination that letter is authentic, it proves nothing. Even if the bishops of Serapis were called bishops of Christ and the worshippers of Serapis were called Christians, that is not surprising because the word Christ is from the Greek word Christos, which is simply a Greek word that means the chosen one. Christ was not the last name of Jesus. He wasn't Mr. Christ. He was Jesus the Christ, the chosen one. It was the Greek equivalent to the Hebrew word Messiah. But that Greek word could also be applied to anybody who calls themselves the chosen one. So it would not be surprising at all if a Greek ruler or deity would be referred to as the chosen one or Christus. That would not be surprising at all, and it is certainly not significant, but all of that is a moot point because that letter never existed. It is a work of fiction. Now here's where the fun really starts. We're going to talk about now somebody called Arius. And if you've been blessed by this video so far, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more teachings like this. If you click on that bell icon, you will get notified whenever I put a new video out. Alright, so let's talk about Arius. Arius is significant because he was one of the two main players in the Council of Nicea, which was an important juncture in the history of the church. So let me first of all show you what Ray Hagins says about Arius. This is his version of history.
Arius, a brother called Arius. Arius was making noise, man. He was telling everybody, this deity that y'all worshiping is not deity. He was made by people's hands. He was made, he was formed out of metal. Arius was causing such a problem because people started listening to him. So what happened, for the sake of stability in the Roman Empire, Constantine called a council. It was called the Nicene Council. And in this council, the first order of business was to discredit and silence Arius.
So his version of history says that people were worshipping Serapis, and Arius arose and started telling people that Serapis is not really God. He was made by hands. And the Council of Nicea was convened to silence Arius. Now, the problem with conspiracy theorists is that if I show him anything from the internet about Arius, he's going to say no, the entire internet was whitewashed by the Roman Catholic Church. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find the source that Ray Hagins is using himself, and I'm going to use that source to debunk him. I'm going to play a clip and I want you to watch carefully.
Arius lived at a time when the church was divided because of the Christological dispute, which he was instrumental in starting.
You notice that he was reading. He was not talking freely to the congregation. He was reading from a document. So I typed that exact phrase that he read into Google, and here's what I found. It led me to a website called Tech Malta, and as we open that up, here is the exact quote that he just made. He, Arius, lived at a time when the Eastern Church was divided because of the Christological dispute that he was instrumental in starting. So, if Dr. Hagins has no problem quoting history from that website, I have to assume that he considers that website to be historically reliable. So let's see what else this website has to say about Arius. His teaching, meaning Arius, was that the Father alone is God. The Logos or the Son Arius maintained was a created being. Now that's what his source says, right? Listen to what Dr. Hagins says.
Arius didn't have no problem with that statement. In fact, that was Arius' argument. There ain't but one God. He ain't got no son. That was Arius' argument.
He says that Arius believed God had no son, but this very side that he's quoting from contradicts him. Arius believed that God had a son. However, the difference is Arius didn't believe that the Son was equal with the Father. He believed that the Son was a created being. Now, do I agree with Arius? Absolutely not. But what we're trying to establish here is what Arius really believed. He wasn't talking about Serapis. He was talking about a God who actually had a son. So already we see that he is contradicting Dr. Hagins. It goes on to say, he was formed out of nothing by the Father before the universe was made. He therefore said that there was a time when the Son had not existed. So Ray Hagins interprets that to mean Serapis never existed. Serapis is not real. But that is not what Arius is saying. Arius is saying that there was a time when the Son of God did not exist, because Arius believed that the Son was created at a certain point in history, and before that he did not exist. Other than that, Arius believed everything else about Jesus. Encyclopedia Britannica refers to Arius as a Christian priest, and he affirmed a created finite nature of Christ rather than equal divinity with God the Father. So he certainly is not teaching that Christ never existed. He is teaching that Christ is not equal with the Father. And again, I don't agree with Arius, but that's what he taught. Now, in case you may be saying, The Encyclopedia Britannica has been whitewashed by the Roman Catholic Church. Let me show you an Islamic website, and surely they were not whitewashed by the Roman Catholic Church. It says Arius was the leading father in Arianism, which is the idea that Jesus is not equal to the Father by nature, but he is the first creation of God. Arius questioned the divinity of Jesus the Son by emphasizing the supremacy of the Father. He believed that Jesus was an elevated soul compared to the rest of humanity, but much less than the Father. We see a clear contradiction between what these historical sources are saying about Arius and what Ray Hagins is saying. Ray Hagins is either completely botching history, he's completely misreading the documents like an amateur, or he is deliberately deceiving you. Ray Hagins claims that there was no historian in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century who said anything about Jesus, and he mentioned the name of one of them called Origen.
This is nobody. Origen, none of the historians of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century said anything about somebody called Jesus.
In another video, I actually quoted from Josephus, Ignatius, and Justin Martyr, who all referred to somebody called Jesus in the 1st century that was worshipped as God. But since Origen is important to Dr. Ray Hagins, let's find out what Origen taught. Let's use the same website that he was quoting from. It says, Arius was also unhappy with Origen's idea that there could be degrees or grades of divinity, with the Son being slightly less divine than the Father. This became known as semi-Arianism. It takes a little bit to put that together, so maybe if I say a child could put that together, maybe that will be taking it too far. But surely a PhD scholar could be able to figure out what that means. Arius is disagreeing with Origen, and Origen's idea is that the Son is divine, but not as divine as the Father. That's what Origen believes. So Origen himself clearly believed in Jesus, and he was the Son of God. Right? Both Arius and Origen believed in the historical Jesus. They believed he was the Son of God, but they didn't believe he was equal with the Father. And again, I disagree with them both, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So Britannica says about Origen that he was influenced by semi-Gnostic writings, and he taught that Jesus' body appeared differently to different observers according to their spiritual capacities. Some saw nothing remarkable in him, and others recognized in him their Lord and their God. Right? That's what Origen believed. It's a weird belief that I don't agree with, but clearly he believed in Jesus. Totally contrary to what Dr. Hagins says, that nobody, including Origen, ever mentioned something about somebody called Jesus. That is a complete lie. And now Dr. Hagins puts forward this slide in his presentation. This is the outcome of the Council of Nicea, and they are now renouncing Arius.
And those who say, meaning Arius, there was once when he was not. See, that's what Arius said. Arius said, I remember the day when there was no Serapis image. So the Roman Catholic Council said, and anybody who says that there was once when he was not, and before he was begotten he was not, and that he came to be from things that were not, or from another hypostasis or substance, affirming that the Son of God is subject to change or alteration, these, the Catholic and Apostolic Church, what y'all, anathematizes.
So Hagins interprets that to mean that Serapis never existed. He was made out of things, out of material things, by hands. Let's look at what this statement actually says. Those who say, referring to Arius, there was once when he was not. So that means there was a time when he did not exist. Whoever is the he that they're talking about here. Hagins thinks it's talking about Serapis. We know better, it's talking about Jesus Christ. And before he was begotten, he was not. So who was begotten? Nobody believes that Serapis was begotten. The only person who was begotten was Jesus. And Arius believed that before he was begotten, he did not exist. That's what it means. He was not. And that he came to be from things that were not. Right? So that's what Arius believed, that God created Jesus, or the Son of God, out of nothing. And the church renounced that belief as heretic. I also believe that that is a heresy, but Arius believed in the historical Jesus Christ, and he believed he was the Son of the eternal God. So if you are a follower of Dr. Ray Hagins, and first of all, congratulations for watching this far into the video. I hope it wasn't too brutal for you. But I challenge you with this question. Who is really enslaving you? Who is really enslaving your mind? The guy who is teaching you blatant lies and taking you for a complete fool? Or Jesus who said, I have come to proclaim liberty to the captives, to set at liberty those who are oppressed. He said, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And who the Son set free is free indeed. True freedom comes from knowing Jesus. If you've been blessed by this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to see some of my other teachings, there is a playlist on your screen. This was part 5 in my series, Jesus is God. And that playlist gives the full compilation of videos. And I'll keep adding to that as I go along. All right, so thank you guys for watching. God bless you. And I will see you all next time.